Hey, we're here. The Sorry for My Language Lifetime Show. All right. Enough. You're too kind. You're too kind. Sorry for my language. That's what we're starting off. That way, for me to you, if I say anything that offends you, I don't care. If I say anything that might be off color, meaning that it's a little risque for the ears, for the tender ears, I don't care. But I respect you enough to say, sorry for my language. So that's what we're starting. This is my very first episode of this show, and I'm wearing sunglasses because I got to talk about something real cool. This shirt is brought to you by Grindstone Universal. Yeah, it's very fresh. It's the primordial atom of streetwear. It's the epitome of urban luxury. Grindstone Universal. Based in Washington, D.C., but touching all corners of this rounded globe on which we float. Now, I would like to start by introducing a few things that are dear to me. One of them is cannabis. One of them is business. The two things make cannabis. Let's think about that. Cannabis? It used to be called hustling. Used to be called getting high. Used to be called relaxing. Used to be called illegal. Used to be called 3 to 5 years. And now here we are, right? The abundance of cannabis in the world is something that, when trying to legislate it, whether you're making it illegal or legal, is something that I don't think the government ever took into account. You need soil, water, cannabis genetics, and light, preferably sunlight, but something that mimics sunlight. At that point, you have big old buds that's about to crack off. Am I lying or am I lying? Is I'm lying? Let's clap it up for the plants. Oops, wrong one. And that's not a clap, but still here we are. So I really enjoy, first of all, I have a green thumb, okay? And my green thumb, just yesterday I harvested a whole bunch of kale out my garden, whole bunch of, what are those peppers? Habanero peppers. I got busy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you for 1 second. I grow stuff. I just appreciate it. And so that's why I spend time doing it. However, I don't like the fact that others try to make it, and I'm sure that, forever this has been the plight of farmers. I don't like the fact that others tell you what you can and can't grow, when you can or can't do whatever it is that the universe is providing for you, and create an actual commodity out of something that is given to you for free. I don't like that. Now, I grew up in church. I read the Bible. I read the entire Bible. I didn't understand it all, but I know that there is a verse in the Bible that speaks of all seed bearing herbs being fruit and food for the people. That's what I do know. So y'all gonna have to slow down on trying to say who can and can't do it. As of the pandemic, it's been really cool how the legislative agendas have eased up off penalizing cannabis, and part of it is because they saw that they can get $1 or $2 out of it. That's cool and not cool. I know, that's a step of evolution, and I really like the fact that some of the charges that people got from cannabis got expunged. That's a beautiful thing. I don't think that's something that you should, at any moment. Matter of fact, for everybody who experiences expungement, let's make some noise. it's a whole new day, right? I'm still learning these paths, by the way, but it's a whole new day. Something that you did that you probably didn't feel was wrong morally, you got in trouble for, and then that locked you out of a lot of places where you really could have probably existed, thrived, but you were never let in those doors because you had that charge on your jacket. You know what I'm saying? And so I really like the reformed legislation of cannabis. However, we got to get to it. Let's slow down on all the likes, right? We got to get to it. In D.C., the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. First of all, let me take you down a little history. Hold up. Um, I don't even have a computer noise for that, but let me take you through a little history. So, first of all, Washington, D.C., when I arrived here in 1993, was 90 something percent black. And I'm going to go ahead and say the city government was extremely dysfunctional. Extremely dysfunctional. Now, stick with me where I'm going. Crack ran the whole everything of the DC metropolitan area. The people who were up, they were selling crack. The businesses that were up who weren't selling crack, they were benefiting because they had customers who sold crack and had money. Um, of course, with that, there's a lot of violence. Of course, with that, violence is people fighting over territory because they're junkies to be conquered. Got to face that. So there were several broken families. Um, it was just everything going on. It was a free for all outside, and it was sad. It was fun. It was dangerous, but yet there was some kind of safety in the chaos because you felt that if nothing else is going to be built up, there's room here to move and groove a little bit. So cannabis at that time was something that was brought from the main people who had cannabis. They were the Jamaicans, and they had these big hard bricks of cannabis that was all seeded up. And one part of that game, it was like roll you a fat one, but then the objective was to get off volume. It was not a connoisseur thing on the East Coast. There were some people who would drive up to New York, get right, because it was like some little connoisseur pockets in New York. Shout out to 174th to Amsterdam. Juno. It was people who kind of had it right. Matter of fact, I'm gonna find the applause button. Yeah, the Dominicans had that thing going on for years. I don't. I got to do the. I got to do the knowledge and science and math on how they had that cracking for so long. But anyway, the cannabis world was really more of a. It was kind of like you see rail whiskey or rail liquor now. People would have it, they would consume it, but it wasn't like this is better than that and this is why. Maybe some people will go off the color or whatever. So when I got here in 93, being from Oakland, California, you know, had to let them know they were doing it wrong. And and boy did I let them know they were doing it wrong. I did. The reason why I'm talking about this, and I'm realizing where I'm skipping around, because yesterday a good friend of mine, popular friend, a lot of you know by name, but I'm gonna protect the innocent and the guilty by never dropping names, if they haven't, conceded to such uh, being revealed on camera. Anyway, he went to a cannabis shop on Florida Avenue yesterday, and yesterday, Peace in the Air, which is a shop that I own, which is in the Adams Morgan area, we were closed yesterday because we're doing some renovations. And there was he went down there and he asked them to see their menu, and this is him telling me. So they showed him the menu, they showed him the prices, and he looked at some of the packs and he was like, "Man, this is straight huff. Like, what's going on? Huff is trash. This is straight trash." And they were like, "Oh, you want the good?" And he was like, "Yeah, I usually rock with Grindstone. Do you know who Grindstone is?" So the young salesperson was like, "Nah, I don't. I don't know who Grindstone is." At that point, My man's was like, you in Washington, D.C. handling cannabis. You don't know who Grindstone is? Now, it's one thing if you don't know Grindstone, but you don't know who Grindstone is, and this is your line of work? That's why we got to get a critical weed theory in schools. Yeah, you know. Shout out to those who know their history, and shout out to those who have somebody who they can ask, who could tell them something about somebody who got them to where they are. Enough about me. But that's why I'm telling this story. So anyway, Washington, D.C.'s laws. Recently, when we talk about commodifying cannabis and cannabis legislation, Washington, D.C.'s laws are bullshit. Am I lying? Am I lying? Congregation. Is I'm lying? This is what makes Washington, D.C.'s laws around cannabis bullshit. Now, let me not just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay. I really do appreciate the fact that in Washington, D.C., you have a legitimate system in which people can obtain their cannabis of choice. I like that. I like the fact that people could light up, fire up, they're not bothering nobody, and they are not going to the precinct. I even like the fact in DC that you can mess around and get pulled over with a QP or maybe even a few units on you if you get pulled over. But I don't know why you're getting pulled over because that's not how it goes no more. But I like the fact that that exists and you will not get in trouble. Because after all, as we spoke earlier, this is the product of somebody's agriculture. No processing goes into this. It's not like you add something to something and you do something to something and mess it all up. You diggery? So there's a part of the cannabis lore that was affiliated with danger that really doesn't exist anymore. Now you got to watch out for the robbers, but you don't really have to watch out for the cops. So in I'm gonna give it got popular in 2018, 2019, the shops. You have shops. Okay. These shops were run by an initiative that was voted on. I might get this wrong, but it's somewhere around 2015. And it was called Initiative 71. Initiative 71, you go look it up. I'm not going to speak ad nauseum on how Initiative 71 gave people the freedom to do certain things, but it was the basis on which a lot of shops opened. Okay? They opened, they did business, they provide for themselves. Very little violence, very little neighborhood disturbance was a result of Initiative 71, also known as I-71. Shout out to the I-71 committee. We got infiltrated, but Juno, we were still doing something very, very honorable. You know, when you do something honorable, when you make a certain amount of noise, people gonna get in your mix. And if they got shit on their shoes, they're gonna come in and drag it on your carpet. But that's something we got to offline about. Anyways, there's now licensing that is available for DC residents. Well, let me not say. Well, yeah, DC residents, but there's licensing that's available, and the licensing in the cannabis space in Washington D.C. It is, as all business things are, it's paperwork driven. Now, you don't put the paperwork with the cannabis. What are we doing? I thought the cannabis came from the ground. Having water, sunlight, dirt, and seeds of herbs or cuttings of herbs is no longer your right to handle and distribute amongst people as you would see fit. Now it has been commodified. Commerce indicates money. Money indicates government. Now the government, the cat's out the bag. You can't put that cat back in the bag and make people be villains for doing this because it's no longer villainized. That would be too difficult. Okay, thank goodness for that. But now you can't make money off of it without the government saying, okay, you can now make money off of it. That to me is bullshit. It's a joke. can't make money off something that came from the ground because Jules said it came out the ground, right? Okay, that's interesting. Another thing that makes that a problem is that they call it medical. Hmm. Let me get this right. What you're doing is medical. What we're doing on this line is criminal because of paperwork. But didn't the plant come from the ground? I thought the plant came from the ground. I thought that was the magic that we were here enjoying. Something that comes from the ground that is medicinal and biblical. Now lean in. This is when it gets real. If you do not do the paperwork that goes with the licensing, that goes with the plant that comes from the ground, you will be fined real money. Real money. You will be villainized. You will be in somebody's newspaper. Yeah. So that's where the commerce and the abundance of God clash. Now, people might ask me, well, what do you feel is a better way for cannabis law to be written? I'm saying, fuck cannabis law. But I guess you can't say that, right? You can't say that because the government has to regulate everything, right? Okay, so if we got to regulate everything, but why we got to regulate everything once again? I don't know. But the government got to regulate everything. So the government has to regulate absolutely everything that goes on. This is where DC messed up. I'm talking to you. This is where DC messed up. There's a rule that, as interpreted, it infringes on the concept of free enterprise. Free enterprise runs America, so I thought. If it did, this law, this part of the law, would not be part of it. So it says that shops cannot exist within 400 feet of each other. Well, why not? There's shops that are 400 feet of each other that sell alcohol. There's shops that are 400 feet of each other that sell hair products. There's shops that are 400 feet of each other that sell anything else, gasoline, whatever, ramen, but cannabis shops can't be closer than 400 feet within distance of each other. Big old problem with that is you have a limited amount of square mileage. DC is like 10, the District of Columbia is like 10 square miles, roughly. Close to 4 or 5 of that is national parks. So that is no retail space. Then you got to consider where people live. So now you've made spacers in between, very limited space that infringe on free enterprise of this plant. This plant that has been medicinal for, I don't know, how many thousands of years has it been? 100 million thousands of years it's been about. That is now, there's a consequence that goes with this. So that's where the law messes up. People who did not involve themselves in this recreationally or as an illegal commodity before it was legalized or before it was made illegal. And I'm using this thing like a band director. This is my this is part of my vibe. This, when I have this, I'm getting the vibe. The people who have had access to it are not the people making the decisions for the law. Ain't that stupid? Ain't that a joke? So then you have people who know law and who try to legislate law, and they trying to talk about something natural and wonderful and beautiful. Okay. This is where the empire strikes back. Got to get on my other angle for this. Now that y'all hopped in, the weed market is fucked up. Sorry for my language. But it's not fucked up just because y'all hopped in. It's fucked up because God took over. You know what that means? That means that the abundance of the soil, of the sun, of the nutrients, of the herb, the abundance has taken over and flooded the market. And honestly, I don't think we're going to have no more droughts. I don't think so because it used to always be like a seasonal drought. It's so much indoor growing going on. There's so little penalty on what happens if you have cannabis that I just think we're going to be pretty much droughtless. Now, you might have droughts on like the big outdoor things because outdoor has not been, there's been no increase in outdoor space to grow plants at a certain latitude and longitude where they grow best. But indoor grows, that's pretty much going to satisfy every city. And you really can't regulate that. But there are people who have paid money to have a license to grow indoors. Ain't that crazy? You could grow indoors if you want to. I was growing indoors in the 90s when Goody Mob. Let me get a sip of water for this. Hold on. And you see my green thumb thumbing. Y'all just don't know. Shout out to DJ Short with that blueberry strain that had the city on his head. When Goody Mob came out with their album Soul Food, 1995. When Tupac came out with All Eyes on Me, when Jizza came out with Liquid Swords, when Raekwon came out with Only Built for Cuban Links, I was listening to those albums in a room where I was growing weed. Yeah, back then. Yeah, metal halide, high pressure sodium lamps. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now you're trying to regulate that. What I did, what I learned in all that time of growing, I learned, oops, I learned a lot about the plant. I learned a lot about the patience that it takes to grow something. I learned a lot about myself. It was beautiful to make somebody have a license to do such things, to allow it to get to customers is almost even a foolish pitch for the city to try to do to try to control. I'm just so glad that that has not been prioritized as a jailable offense or as a crime. But the business part of it, the bad PR that has come from Washington, D.C.'s, it's like a little it's a skirmish on drugs. It's kind of a war though. But what it's done, it is really just it's been a false narrative. But the beauty of it, when they jumped in and tried to get all their bread, God locked them out. Yeah, God said, fuck y'all legislators. This is my plant. I'm going to put this thing everywhere so you can't build a fence around it. You can't even build an invisible fence around it. It's everywhere. How about that? Everybody high now. How about it? Everybody gets to enjoy now because you try to get your little dirty, grimy hands in it and get the money off the table. You don't want the people to thrive. And you try to get them on the front end with the licensing fees, get them in the middle with the taxes, and then hit them on the back end if they don't keep up their licensing fees or if they do something that makes you feel like you need to fine them $10,000, $20,000 in order to close their business. Yeah, that's dirty business. That's dirty pool, as they would say. So in Washington, D.C., you have a real problem. And people who laid the groundwork, I mean, think about it. How old were you in 1993? How old were you when me and a couple of my cohorts were making this something that would be kind of normalized for you in 2024? So who the fuck are you to lock somebody out or something? And I'm not saying I'm one of the ones locked out. I'm saying, who the fuck you think you are? Can we be real? Am I in the wrong place to be real? Or am I in the right place? Tell me now. Tell me now. Sometimes you got to celebrate yourself. That young lady not knowing who Grindstone was yesterday at that shop, I'm cool with that. Like, I don't have any problem with that at all. But I was a student of the game, and I think that everybody who's in something, they should be a student as well. You know, there are a lot of people who, and really, like, my whole weed growing thing, it started because I wanted to grow something that I wanted to smoke. Like I grow my food, just like I said, I picked habanero peppers because it was gonna get real cold last night. I picked everything out my garden. I'm about to give this kale away because it ain't no way I'm gonna eat all this kale I have. So if if you want some kale, holla. But I eat from my garden all summer, really from like May, May or June until December when I have a butternut squash. So yeah, I do that. So if I was smoking, I wanted to smoke out of my own garden. I want to know what was in that. Okay, I didn't need a medical stamp, and it was much recreation going on. I wanted to have a recreational affair with what I was growing. So the summary of all what I'm saying is that currently America's economic system is all the way in the toilet. Don't let them tell you differently. I remember I did an interview. It might have been in the beginning of 2021 or 2022. It was with the news. And I was telling them that we are in a depression. It was not a recession. They talked to me about business. But I was like, it's real pretty because everybody got their stimulus checks. But there's no way that that much money could have been printed as we entered a pandemic. And we were already on the heels of being in a tremendous recession because at that time it was like I can't remember if it was like a 15-year war at that time, but we were in a crazy war that it lasted. And at the beginning of that war, it wasn't sweet. And then in 2008, all the money that was floating around went into the toilet because The Big Short. Matter of fact, if you haven't seen that movie, go see the movie The Big Short. Excellent film. I've been watching a lot of good movies lately. Um, One of the most recent movies I watched was I just watched Dog Day Afternoon with Al Pacino. That's also a good movie. Um, but anyway, let's talk about this cannabis world that has nonviolent component and very profitable component when everybody was scared to get in it, and it was only like the strong ones who were willing to get in it survived. Um, that was a golden time. Those were the halcyon days, right? That was when all the bills that you had, you could really pay them in one day. Um, it was a very brief period, and it was just like when the stores were really popping, and it was unsure. Like the first ones through the gate are usually the ones that either get shot or the ones that succeed. But in this case, we were the ones who succeeded. But now that you have all the crumb snatchers who were scared and watching everything unfold and who want a piece now, greedily, I must say, now that you have all them um, entering the mixture, it's over. There's a surplus. It's legal in Maryland. They don't have to hit the Beltway to come see you. You're the joke. It's pumping in Delaware. It's pumping in New Jersey. It's pumping in New York. They having pop-ups in Virginia all day that's not getting rated. Okay? The market has flattened out. It's going to have to be a nuclear drama in order to bring the market back. So, looking at this as your greedy grab, it's over. You should have been doing it in the 90s. You should have been doing it in the early 2000s. You should have been fucking with it when it was dangerous, bitch. But now you coming in now trying to regulate something, huh? Yeah, you a little too late. You wasted your time. And now what you gonna do? This is to all the squares. And I'm not saying squares in a bad way. I'm just saying the ones who watch the renegades get busy and said, there he goes. That's the bad one over there. This is disturbing my neighborhood. That's the one. And y'all just did that long enough to figure it out. And that's whether you work on the government side or if you work on the civilian side. You were afraid, but you were envious. You wanted to be in the spot. You wanted to be in the spot of the one whom you envy. Doesn't that happen too often? That always happens, right? They be scared, scared, but really it's like jealous, 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 jealous. and then they wanted to get in. And I know the economy's trash. So like some of the opportunistic ones out of y'all, I don't even blame you, right? Because it's like whatever you were doing, that industry doesn't thrive anymore. Whatever you're doing over there. So then you came in this because it seemed like the good. Well, yeah, now you got to compete with everybody else who's not afraid. First, it was just California. Then it was California, New York. Then it was California, New York, and Texas. Now I'm talking about like on the illegal circuit who had it going on. But Texas had the trash, but it had the trash in volume coming from Mexico. Then Atlanta and Detroit became real good friends with Californians. Taking you on a little history ride. Let's ride. Let's go backwards a little bit. Because I might just be kind of stream of consciousness free flowing about this plant that started out just so beautiful. It still is beautiful, but now it's like kind of y'all treating her like a prostitute. Can't see her for the innocent beauty she is as she pops out the ground with morning dew on her anymore. Or when you go in your grow room and spray her anymore. Now it's like a prostitute. Hey, and shout out to all the good prostitutes. But this, y'all treating it like I don't know, like dirt, bad dirt, dirty dirt, something ugly. Because you want to hoard it for yourself to leave others out. So I'm just giving you a little history for that reason. Because I know you don't know. I know you don't know. So the trade went California, Detroit. Those are like sister brother cities. It's just the way. Um, LA. Well, when I say cities, I'm gonna say Oakland, Detroit. But then LA had it good, but it all comes from the top of California. Then let me see, Atlanta jumped in, Texas. But then when it became legal, then Colorado became a hub, right? And sorry if I left out your city and you was really getting busy. But Colorado became a hub. And when Colorado became a hub, it was a hub of the legal, like kind of restaurateur, um, retail space of cannabis. And that that brought in really like the new era. Wow, can we be like Colorado? Can everybody be like Colorado? Everybody was saying that without being in Colorado. And I'm from Oakland, but I've lived in DC forever. But being from Oakland, I saw how the shops were super popping for a second. Man, Harborside. Now I'm taking you back to 99, 2000, 2001, 98, around that era. There were a couple stores in the morning, lines would be out the door. And I really look at it like cultural phases go from west to east, just like the weather. Like you could tell this in the drug trade, and you could tell this in the technology and economy. It goes from west to east. So like if you peep it in California, just know that the rest of the world is gonna be there within 2 to 3 years, maybe even a little longer. In some cases, way longer, but it starts there. So study Oakland, study LA, just the condition of people and why they're there and why they exist in the way they exist. So I remember when the cannabis first became something that it got accepted publicly, legally. In the mornings, lines would be crazy. Harborside was a dispensary that for whatever reason, probably was the marketing, they were dumb popular. A line would be out that joint early in the morning and pretty much all day. And this lasted for a while. Then you had little joints all around the Bay Area popping, and everybody was doing well. Fast forward to 2020, really fast forward to 2018. That's how like that's how DC was. DC had a real stint with success when it came to the shops, the lines outside. You just put an open sign and a line is going to form. You could just have one strain, and next thing you know, that strain is out for the day. People were closing early. You didn't have to have edibles, carts, Nathan. And it was just like that. That lasted, I'm gonna go ahead and say 2 intense years. But the more the menu was available, the good business continued, and it continued. However, more people get in because fewer people are getting uh, their bravery up to not be afraid to transport. Then the privilege of being connected disappeared. And when the privilege of being connected disappears, then everybody got it. Then you don't have nothing special. Then you got $15 eighths floating around, right? And so it's a joke. $15 eighths, right? So then you start to notice how a crowded market um, oversaturates supply, demand is down, and then it's not as much of a novelty. Like I said, people used to travel to Colorado. I just want to check out the shops. People used to travel to Oakland. I just want to check out the shops. It's shops everywhere. The novelty is gone. DC is super late to the party. So now when the government tried to get in, y'all got in after the novelty left. That's why y'all are cursed. Y'all are cursed. So I really had to get that off of my chest because my man triggered me yesterday when he told me the girl didn't know who I was. And she wasn't supposed to know who I am, okay? But if you're in the weed industry, if this cannabis is making a way for you, there's some type of reverence, respect, some type of something that you know who got you this far. Who made you look acceptable holding the J in your hand? And I'm not trying to take the credit for all of that, but I'm just saying recognize who's in your world and ask somebody about somebody so they could direct you to somebody who did something for the way you happen to be making a living right now. You know, there are a lot of people. It's channels on YouTube. It's just a lot of people in real life who are accessible. You know, Snoop Dogg made it normal on a on an entertainment cultural level, like Redman did, like like the hippies did back in the day. But then when it came to like normal in your neighborhood, yeah, I advise you to go do the knowledge on that in your neighborhood. And man, so once again, this was all based on the abundance that God has brought to our earth through the growth, through the sun, through the water, through the herb-bearing seed, through the nutrients that we're supplied for free. And I advise all y'all to stay healthy. You know, how you live today is mainly impacted by how you treat yourself. So the things that the earth gives you, give that to yourself. The water, the things that come from seed that's brought to life for your nutrients. And I'm about to go do that. I'm about to do a little bit of that. I got to get out of here. I got to go swimming, get my life right. Yeah. And if I offended anybody today, hey, sorry for my language. But I appreciate you. Hey, once again, like I said, this zip down freshness, zip up, zip down, it's made out of Balenciaga fabric. I made this shirt. I make several items by hand, and some I make very close to wonderful seamsters and seamstresses. I designed it all. I source all the fabric. My name is Grindstone. Go to grindstoneuniversal.com. Yeah. If you're in the Washington, D.C., DMV area, go to peaceintheair.com. That's peaceintheair.com. As a matter of fact, this is the peace sign, okay? That means togetherness. That's peace. Yeah. This is separate, right? So anyway, I got that for y'all. It's all love, no hate. Correct your mistakes. Hey, till next time. Sorry for my language. Yeah.